Hey, what's going on, guys? With Nexomon Extinction on its way out tomorrow, I figured it would be a good time to share with you some of my thoughts on the game as a whole. Now, if you've been keeping up with the channel, you'll know I did get a review copy of the game and have been uploading Let's Plays on it, which, if you've seen those, you'd at least get some of my early thoughts, as those were actually recorded days ago. But anyways, today we're going to be answering the million-dollar question: is Nexomon worth the cash? So if you're interested in a review from someone who's deeply invested in the monster taming genre as a whole, you've come to the right place. So yeah, take a seat, sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. So as per the usual with these type of monster taming reviews, I like to break them into three major categories, which I find to be the most important to at least the majority of tamer fans, those being the game's story, how the game plays mechanically, and arguably the biggest, the monsters. Now I am limited into what I can say with regards to the game's story as the game comes out tomorrow, but I will say as much as I can without spoiling too much. You start out as an orphan who's being recruited as a guild tamer, which is part of an organization tasked with keeping the peace during troubled times. For the past 1,000 years, after Omnicron, the villain from the last game's death, there's been a war of monsters with the sole purpose of claiming Omnicron's place as king. In more recent times, a very powerful, seemingly evil type of creature has emerged called Tyrants. The world is packed with military bases, guild tamers keeping guard, etc. It's by no means a peaceful world, like you may have come to expect with other taming games. It's your job as the main character to raise your ranks through the guild and protect the citizens of the country. Like I said, I don't want to go too in depth as I'd like to keep the game unspoiled for the most part, but basically you're a young person on a quest. We've all probably dabbled in something like that if you've played Pokemon. Now throughout your adventure you will meet various characters that surprisingly stand out. Each has a personality of their own and don't just feel like pawns to progress the plot. This is helped even more by the game's amazing art style, coupled with the backdrops displayed during certain in-game events. Which, I mean, look at these, like, can I just say damn. This is something that I'd like to see more 2D tamer games do, as it really does give life to the characters and the situation that you're in. So yes, each character does have their own trope, but the game does feel like it has some level of genuine character progression rather than everyone being set in a specific way. The game is also extremely self-aware. You have this companion that's like a cat for some reason. They'll poke fun at the fact that they're a cat, and they'll also poke fun at the overall narrative of the game, whether it being calling you a mute or pointing out people doing stupid crap that video game characters do. Like he mentions right in the beginning of the game to the woman that's about to help you get a monster, hey, why are you sending us into a forest alone? Haven't you played an RPG before? Though it does get a little bit overbearing at times, sort of breaking immersion. I'd even go as far as to say it does get annoying at times. They did do a decent job sort of balancing the comedic relief with the game's overall serious undertone. With story, like I said, we do got to keep it short because, again, I don't want to say too much, but I can say that I've thoroughly enjoyed the plot of the game and the world feels really lived in. In terms of the overall gameplay and subsequently story progression from a gameplay perspective rather than just lore, I think Nexomon Extinction actually set a pretty high bar. Firstly, once you get your starter, which you have 9 choices, there's actually a lot you can explore, making the game feel semi-open world. I literally took my starter and just left the main area in favor of exploring the ghost town, which is a later game area, and even a tropical island. Now, the first criticism I could see to this sort of system is the fact that, hey, well, if you go to a later game area, it's sort of fruitless because all the monsters are going to be too strong and you're just going to get one-shotted. Well, that's not the case because the game scales, and it scales pretty well. The monsters never feel too strong, but also not too weak either. It's just enough to give you a challenge, but doesn't force you to sit and grind in order to do anything. The game also features an abundance of side quests, which I've always found barren in Pokemon. Some of these side quests are quite simple, like just finding a certain Nexomon or an item, but others are more interesting, with one, for example, having you collect garbage from around the city, and another having you teaching a ghost how to battle. Little things like this, sort of progressing side characters' plot lines, is something that I really like. It really does make the game feel a lot more lively. There are also a ton of tamers wanting to trade certain items. There's a simple mining system that allows you to create specialized Nexo traps, aka the game's Pokeball equivalent. NPCs that actually say either useful or funny stuff. Optional vaults that hold rare goods if you happen to come across a key to open them, etc. When I first arrived in the main game city, I was astonished by the sheer number of NPCs on screen. I'm so used to other games having a town that holds maybe 10 NPCs max, while Nexomon has just a crap ton of them, making the city feel a lot more alive, and each have something to say that's not necessarily patronizing like we would see in a game like Pokemon. There isn't anyone sitting there just being like, I love Nexomon, or Nexomon are so great. Like, each person says something either important, interesting, or just funny. The game also has an abundance of tamers for you to battle, and they're all pretty much skippable, giving you player choice, but also punishing you if you don't take advantage of the XP gain. These trainers are also available for rematch, so you don't have to worry about being stuck grinding against wilds if you're trying to like evolve something or something to that extent. In terms of battling, the game features your typical 1v1 turn-based combat, but there are a couple of key differences. Firstly, the Nexomon have a stamina bar, so you can't just spam any move you want. I do have a complaint regarding how this system works though. So in a game like Koromon or Temtem, you can choose to skip a turn and heal a chunk of stamina, whereas in Nexomon, you basically have to use it all up until you're forced to rest. Resting gives you a very small amount back, just being 10, making it really frustrating when you can only use a move every other turn because you're exhausted. Now, you can heal yourself with various stamina healing items, but I feel like the rest function is just a much better system when it comes to stuff like this. The game also features something interesting, and that being speed-based attacks. Now, we do have something similar in Temtem with priority-based attacks, but basically certain attacks will have more speed than other attacks, so you'll have to keep that in mind. Generally, weaker attacks will have faster speeds, while the opposite is true for stronger attacks. I don't mind at all. It actually adds a layer of complexity to an otherwise pretty standard system. There are also various cores that you can attach to your Nexomon, which will either boost XP, boost coin drops from defeating other tamers and wild Nexomon, boost your stamina, etc. Each can hold 4, so you can definitely trick out your Nexomon quite a bit. Now, speaking of which, the game does not feature IVs or EVs, which I'm totally fine with. I heavily dislike the randomness and faux grind associated with breeding for perfect stats. All it does in games like Pokemon is promote genning, and honestly, I just think there are better ways to customize sets rather than having something so tedious. Now, Nexomon Extinction doesn't have a multiplayer right now, which is my biggest complaint from a game focused on monster taming, as the multiplayer dynamic gives you a reason to want to trade, or to want to get a good team together to battle, or to want to collect shiny equivalents so you can trade them or whatever. It adds almost an infinite amount of playtime to a game, especially making it easy to get a good team together without the IVs and EVs. This point, however, is not a lost cause, because I have heard that multiplayer is still a possibility in the future with a patch. I personally think that the system is extremely beneficial, so I hope that that possibility does become a reality. Alright, so let's talk monsters. Nexomon has 381 monsters, or Nexomon, for you to tame, with a lot looking very cool, others being alright, and there are of course a few stinkers as well. I would say that there are some that I think look cool but are too similar to various Pokemon, but overall I think the monster design is quite solid. The animated sprites that they chose are beautiful, as well as the backdrops that go along with them. Given the fact that they have such a vast roster, there is enough room for every type of monster for every preference. You like dragons? Boom, here you go. Cute monsters? Boom. Edgy monsters? Yup. Thick boys? Oh yeah. The game does a really good job with its roster in my opinion, and I can safely say it stands alongside games like Koromon and Monster Crown in terms of a great variety of monster design. All in all, Nexomon Extinction is a pretty solid title with a few minor inconveniences, and my only big complaint being the lack of multiplayer. The game is quite vast for what it is, and as of such, there's no way I'd be able to go through all of what it has in this review. In terms of pricing in my country, it's going for a similar price to Temtem, which is currently early access, and its price will be increasing each update. I think if you use that as a sort of benchmark, I'd say it's definitely worth the cost. You could easily put dozens of hours into it, especially if you go exploring like I did, and let's not forget to mention the large roster of monsters to collect alongside the side quests, the trades, the vaults, etc. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to say it is worth the cash in my opinion. If you can get over the lack of multiplayer, I'd highly recommend it. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of the review. Was it helpful? What are your thoughts with regards to Nexomon Extinction from what you've seen so far? Make sure to let me know in the comments, and I just want to reiterate, these are my honest opinions regarding the game. Having a review copy in no way has affected my opinion. I personally think this is a really good game. I was not instructed to say anything positive about the game, and if anyone was wondering about the Let's Plays, I did get permission to post those, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, if you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at GymLeaderEd. Check out our subscriber Discord, all links in the description. Until next time, peace.